Alright, hello and welcome back everyone. So by now I'm sure everyone has already heard about the shooting in Minnesota that took place involving ice, where there was a lethal shooting of a woman, and depending on which side you sit on, who was either trying to run over an ICE agent or flee. Anyone who caught my short knew I was going to be making a video on this topic, and I finally have enough info where I feel comfortable talking over the subject. I specifically wanted to wait for more and more information to come out before running to make an in-depth video, because as we saw, the narrative shifted a few times before the end result of what we have now. And I'm sure it'll continue to shift in the coming weeks as more and more information comes out. I've seen opinions from an absolute ton of people between YouTube, Twitter, other social media platforms, IRL. It seems everyone has a pretty strong opinion on the matter, and wasted no time to go tell it to everybody they possibly could. Personally, I believe the truth sits somewhere in between all of this, and I haven't been witness to many people having a similar approach to this specific topic, probably because of it being such a hot button issue. Which is why I'm pretty happy to have come across Angry Cop's video that we will look into today. He says some things I agree with and disagree with, but in the end it seems he holds the similar opinion to mine. This shoot, though tragic, is most likely lawful. However, not a traditionally quote-unquote good shoot. So let's dive into the video and go over what he has to say. Also, bear with me here, guys. It's been a long time since I bothered making videos, and coming back I'm learning I've forgotten just about everything there is to know about editing and creating videos that I did learn. And I wasn't very good back then, so if this one seems poor quality, I'm just dumb and I can't really work editing software. My bad.
And I say it's on the level of George Floyd because everybody's talking about it. Your mom, your neighbor, your local news, your mayor, your senator, late night talk show host, the vice president and president of the United States.
Oh, good God, that is true. I genuinely can't remember a police-involved incident since George Floyd being this talked about. Like I said earlier, my timeline on things like Twitter, YouTube, etc., all the online platforms, and even IRL, everyone is talking about this specific incident, to the point where if you don't know at least the basics of what happened, you have to be either entirely unplugged from online life or live under a rock with absolutely no interactions with anyone anywhere for the past few days. Every single person has an opinion on this, and more often it's a passionate opinion, regardless of facts. I've seen everyone from your random people on social media to major news outlets to big-time politicians talking about this, regardless if these politicians or people have absolutely anything to do with this Minnesota ICE or anything else that involved this shooting. And guess what? Most of them still obscure, ignore, or recreate facts. Intentionally or unintentionally, that's kind of for you guys to decide, but point is, it's probably one of the largest, if not the largest topic in the US currently for the past few days. Everyone has heard of it, and everyone wants to voice their opinion. And no, the irony is not lost on me that I'm doing the exact same thing.
Let's kick this video off with a general overview of what we know right now about this officer-involved shooting. ICE agents are operating in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they're conducting an investigation. During that investigation, one of the ICE agents' unmarked vehicles are stuck in the snow. While stuck in the snow, the ICE agents radio to others that they need assistance. Now, during the time that the ICE agents are stuck in the snow, that other agents begin to arrive so they can assist them in getting unstuck, a group of anti-ICE protesters, at this moment known as ICE Watch, block the road and obstruct traffic. The protest vehicles obstruct the roadways where the ICE agents' vehicles are located during this investigation, and that also includes civilian vehicles that aren't associated with the investigation.
Okay, so what makes this part important in my mind is whether or not she was obstructing ICE. Because as far as I'm aware, if she wasn't obstructing ICE directly, and this is where it gets kind of confusing for me, ICE has no reason to approach, nor do they have any form of authority. So that makes the entire situation a lot worse for ICE and the ICE agent who actually pulled the trigger. Really hard to invoke self-defense as a legal defense, from what I understand, when you basically create the situation yourself. Now, this is an extreme example, and keep in mind I'm no lawyer, so take whatever I say, legal-wise, with all of the grains of salt. But imagine you're sitting at home and I just wander into your yard and stand there. Then you come outside and alert me that I'm trespassing and you want me to piss off. I say no and do something threatening. You then try to pull out your firearm, but I'm faster and I shoot you. It's really hard for me to then claim self-defense because I created the situation in which I needed to defend myself. There were avenues to end the situation without needing to fire any shots at all. I could have left, I could have never went onto your property, I could have not drawn a firearm and just ran the hell away. Bottom line is, it makes self-defense a weak and borderline impossible argument. I created the situation, I escalated it by threatening, and then I shot somebody. My excuse of self-defense is dead in the water from the start. How does this relate to the situation? Well, if she was just in the roadway and just blocking traffic, but they had no way of knowing for sure she was doing it intentionally to obstruct ICE, then they have no real authority and are basically just random civilians with the same power as you or I. The law still holds them in different capacities for some reason, from what I understand, but it's not how it should be viewed. These ICE agents walked up to her car, told her to exit the vehicle, attempted to open the door, which from anyone else would indeed be a threat of some kind. Somebody walks up to my door, all angry looking and armed, and try to open it, then they're probably getting the same treatment, either fleeing or shots fired back at them. They kind of cornered her in a way where the one who shot was actually standing and walking around in front of her car when she did attempt to either flee or run over the agent, depending on which side you're on. Then they shot. By definition, they created and escalated the situations themselves. So the same exact situation I just described earlier, they created this situation, they escalated this situation, and now claim self-defense. In my opinion, and again, take it with all the grains of salt, the authority the ICE agents have over this woman is going to be the biggest question in the near future. In my opinion, that changes things from a justifiable, although awful-looking shoot, to a straight-up wrongful murder. And even if she was there to intentionally block them with her vehicle, I'm still unsure where their authority is in this matter. I'm no legal expert, so again, I'm not really sure. Are they required to call local PD to handle it? Are they able to handle it themselves? Do you have to be directly obstructing them and they know full well you're doing it to obstruct them and then they kind of get let off the leash? I don't understand it personally, but I do understand that it is a bunch of bureaucratic BS and red tape. I get it. But I think it's important levels of red tape that we need to be established by more intelligent and legal-minded people way above myself. I'm simply making the statement, asking the question. If they have no proof she was intentionally obstructing them at that time, where does their authority fall into this? It's kind of questionable on whether or not they really even have the ability to give her orders or detain her. And if that's the case, then this shoot becomes much, much more complicated and way sloppier.
ICE agents then approach the vehicle that is obstructing traffic. That vehicle attempts to drive off while ICE agents are making contact with it, and in the process, potentially strikes an ICE agent, resulting in that agent discharging his firearm and striking the driver of that vehicle. The driver received medical aid on scene, but was pronounced dead from their injuries. Now that's as vanilla as I could make it. But like everything in life, it's not that simple, is it? Now, once the internet got a hold of some of the video by some of the protesters and other witnesses that were around the incident, of course, the internet took it and ran with it. And just like that, the internet has been filled with use of force lawyers. Those determining what is or what isn't legal, what is or what isn't justified, and trying to place intent on the driver or the ICE agent that fired his duty weapon. And that also includes intentionally leaving out other videos or deleting comments that could or do conflict with their statements or their point of view of the overall incident.
You see what I mean? This is exactly the same thing I saw when everyone was posting and talking about this issue. Suddenly, everyone are legal experts and know all about the legal and illegal uses of force, self-defense, etc. Again, I'm not speaking from a position of knowing 100% what I am saying is true law or even close to 100% accurate. I have a basic understanding of the matter and the laws in question. Don't take anything I say too seriously, and keep in mind I'm just some random on the internet. It's all opinions and just thoughts from some random. I'm no legal scholar and never will claim to be, but on the other hand, the all the people that instantly made up their minds on this situation within the first hour or even the first day, take them as the clowns they are. They're ideologically driven to believe a narrative regardless of fact. Their level of political tribalism is unmatched across the great depths of the internet. What I recommend everyone do is listen to several people's takes on it, watch the videos yourself, get all of the sides of the story, then form your own opinion. Don't be told how to think on matters like this. It's more important to be an open minded thinker and even come to a wrong or bad opinion on your own than to follow the crowd and always side with your team. Blindly siding with your team is honestly the main reasons we have come to situations like this, where a woman thinks it is okay, and not even just okay, but good for her to follow Ice around and fuck with him nonstop because she doesn't like the actions of Ice, which would be deporting illegal aliens that came into the country illegally, but I doubt very much she even felt that strongly about any of these opinions either. She followed the crowd, if I had to guess. Doing stupid actions like this breed more chaos and division between the people around this country and cause more problems than it will ever fix. Think for yourself when you hear an opinion from someone. Don't instantly agree because they're on your side. Look at it, think it over, take some time to form your own thoughts. As cringy as it sounds, don't be another member in the flock of many sheep. Just think for yourself.
Let's say, in a perfect world, where the ICE officer is without blame and we already understand that he is authorized to use deadly force. When does that authorization of deadly force stop? When is the vehicle no longer a threat? The first shot, let's argue and say that he's 100% in the right and that she is aiming for him, and he lets off that first round. There are photos of the bullet hole going through the front of the windshield.
So, the first shot, again, is probably the most easily justifiable in my mind. You are talking a person driving towards a law enforcement officer, seemingly going to strike said officer. It is kind of hard to not justify this level of force being used. A car is, without question, a lethal weapon when it's used like this, which, in my mind, opens up the use of lethal force in retaliation for defense. We can tell from all the different camera angles and photos of the bullet hole in the front windshield that she most likely hit or at least pushed him with her car as he fired the first shot. You can't get a shot through that angle without being in front of the vehicle. So let's pretend they absolutely, without question, had lawful authority to be there, give her orders, and detain her. And she reacted in this way of driving into the ICE agent in front of her. I think that in this instance, in a vacuum, it is absolutely a justifiable shot without any question, and anyone saying otherwise, in my opinion, are either lying or just don't have the full story and haven't bothered to look at all the facts. I don't believe people are stupid enough to actually think that the first shot is unjustifiable. So then the ones who say it are ideologically driven to lie on behalf of their side, to make it look better for their own team, and to help stir shit up for the other team. Now again, the question in my mind is their legal authority to have this interaction at all. Obviously, they are free to stop and talk with anyone at any time in a consensual encounter, but that changes the moment the other officer orders her out of the car and tries to open the door. It ceases being a consensual encounter at that point, which then in my mind makes it a more justifiable claim that she felt like she was just being assaulted by random armed men and attempted to flee without regard for the person in front of her. It becomes a difficult case at that point in my mind, but that is something only time will tell on whether or not she was in the right because they had no legal authority, or they were in the right because they had all the legal authority. Again, probably the biggest question in the near future in my mind.
But what about the next two? The next two are when he's slightly to the side of the vehicle and shooting through the driver's window. If we can argue that the first shot is a legitimate good shoot because he was in front of the vehicle and feared for his life, could we argue that because he's to the side of the vehicle, that those second and third shots are an overstep when it comes to use of lethal force? What the people investigating this shoot are going to have to do is determine that that one reaction resulted in that simultaneous firing of 3 rounds, bang, bang, bang? Or will they say that although the first round was justified, in that split second between the first and second round, there was no longer a threat to his personal safety as the vehicle was going to the right of him, making the second and third shots no longer justifiable lethal force? Honest opinion, because it happened so closely, I doubt that the second and third shots will be used as a secondary incident trying to show an excessive use of force. Either it all is or none of it is. Sure, we could slow it down to make it seem like an eternity, but the time between the first and third shots are only a matter of 1 to 2 seconds.
Now, this is something I saw a lot of Twitter legal experts talking about, what the second and third shot are, and a ton of people claimed it absolutely is not covered by self-defense, despite the fact that this all happened within single seconds. The funny thing is that all these people that have that opinion, every single time I see it, are posting these opinions with a video clip that is slowed down to 0.25x speed, making it seem like there is so much more time between the 3 shots. In reality, like Angry Cop said, it was a matter of around 2 seconds in total. I think less than 2 seconds. I think it is really hard to push for anything super serious on this issue, like a conviction for murder, as many people claim they want the ICE agent to be charged with, over the time span of sub 2 seconds. For anyone who has been in a life-threatening situation like this, with adrenaline spiked up and things going as fast as they are, will know this span of time is short, insanely short. And for multiple things to happen and decisions to be made in sub 2 seconds, there's a lot, I feel like there should be a lot of leeway here. Something else I don't see many or really anyone talking about is the fact that this officer had less than 2 seconds to decide if this threat was real, stop it, and decide if after the first shot, whether that person was fleeing and no longer a threat or is still a valid threat. What I mean by this is the ICE agent probably has no idea whether they have another agent to the other side of the vehicle, where all of his guys are. He doesn't know if there are other people in harm's way in the vicinity of this vehicle as it's trying to flee. He doesn't know if this lady intended to run him over or was fleeing and he just happened to be wrong place, wrong time. He doesn't know if she did intend to hit him and now is fleeing after the first shot. He has all of this running through his brain in a short sub 2 second window of time and has to make decisions based on the info he has so far. And what he has so far is that this woman clearly doesn't like ICE. She has already been known to block them and bother them in other ways to make their jobs as difficult to do as possible. That doesn't make her a threat, no. I understand that. But then when she almost or did hit him with her car and he fired the initial shot, has she changed up her mind and has decided she's going down with the ship? Fuck jail, we're all gonna go ahead and die tonight, or last stand type of situation? Has she finally snapped and just wants to end a couple of, as she sees it, evil fascist Nazi pigs? He is justified to think that she attempted to hit him. None of us can know for sure if that was the intention behind it or she was trying to flee, but from his point of view, she tried to hit him. But even if she was running, whether the first shot scared her off and she's running or the entire time she was just trying to flee, it's hard for him to decide that in the 1 point fuck off seconds that he had to make that decision. Just something not a lot of people have pointed out as being a big factor in the decision making that led him to shoot in the first place. It is also interesting to see someone like Angry Cops, who would actually have real world experience and information on these types of things, weigh in on whether the incident will be taken as two different incidents being broken into first shot and then the two follow-up shots, or if it will all just be a single incident of force. Again, he's an actual cop. He is probably a better grasp on how these type of situations are broken down and investigated than most other people. If what he says is true and all shots are looked at as a single incident of force, a single usage of force, then I think most people would struggle to call it unjustifiable.
And now we get to the aftermath of the shooting, the conclusion, the aid that's given medically to Miss Good, and also the 911 dispatch calls, which I've received and I'll share with you. In some of the videos from the aftermath, it shows officers walking away, specifically the officer that shot Miss Good. People say that that's a red flag. They also state that nobody was giving her medical aid fast enough, and that civilians on the side of the road were stating that they could render aid, or that they were medical physicians themselves and could assist the officers.
Can I go check a pulse?
No! Back up! Now!
And I'll talk to those two things directly. First, the officer involved with the shooting not rendering aid and walking away. It's normal practice for an officer who gets involved with an officer-involved shooting to immediately remove himself from the area and allow other officers to render aid. There are already dozens of other officers there, ICE agents, etc., that can assist Miss Good after being shot and the vehicle stopping. Why the officers involved in the shooting walk away from incidents like that is to protect the integrity of an officer-involved shooting investigation.
I mean, this whole topic is just fucking stupid to me. I have seen it spewed a lot on social media between the cop walked away, so clearly he wasn't hurt. Why didn't he give medical aid to help the person he just shot? And why didn't they let the random physician in the crowd help? Well, let's tackle all of this one by one, and believe it or not, they're all dumb. Number one, the ICE agent who shot walked away. Clearly, he wasn't hurt. Well, first off, how the fuck would you know? I personally have watched people seriously hurt themselves in high adrenaline situations and not know it, or at least not know the extent of it, until a pretty good chunk of time has elapsed. Have you ever been in like a minor car accident? I remember once getting rear-ended at a red light, and it wasn't a hard hit by any means, probably only like 20-something mile an hour. After I got hit, I jumped out of the car, checked out the damage as I walked to the other car, and checked on the guy who hit me. Everyone seemed fine, no injuries or issues at all, but let me tell you, the next couple hours and into the next day, I became more and more aware of how sore and just beat up I was from such a small impact. I just hurt. Nothing serious, but just in annoying pain. I've seen people break bones and have pretty decent injuries and not really realize how hurt they were until it's pointed out or a few moments go by and the adrenaline starts to fade. Suddenly, shit just starts to hurt and things aren't right. Anyone saying he wasn't hurt just because he walked away seconds later are dumb or, again, trying to score a win for their team. Also, even if he wasn't hurt, that doesn't automatically negate the justification of lethal force. If someone pulls a gun on you, you don't have to wait until they fire in order to defend yourself. Stop being dumb. Number 2, why did he walk away and not give aid? As Angry Cop said, I'm pretty sure that is just standard practice that if you are the shooting officer in a shooting situation, there are others on the scene who can manage the scene and provide aid. You remove yourself. If you're alone, then yes, I'd imagine that you would then attempt to provide aid, but he had a whole crew with him of ICE agents and I think DHS and other things. Let them handle the situation. I'd imagine this is done not only to get the officer involved out of the scene so he can be debriefed later, but also that way there are no mistakes from a guy who just had to fire his weapon and things like controlling the scene or giving aid. you probably don't want that high adrenaline person doing much else. Let the others take control, and as well as keeping the integrity of the scene. You wouldn't want the same cop who just shot someone to be alone with the scene working on stuff or giving them aid and then being able to do things like plant a weapon or something to justify his own shooting. Again, not saying anything like that did happen, but just think of it. It's much more logical for them to just have everyone else take over from there and send him away. You want him gone so he can be questioned on events as soon as possible. Keep that fresh in his mind for his own safety and the safety of the case. Don't have him sitting around working on crowd control or something stupid. 3. Why did they not let the random-ass crowd physician and medics help? Well, probably because they already have their own medics who are capable of doing everything that the random guy can, as well as EMS was already on their way. Call me crazy, but if I were in an accident and cops were already there trying to give me medical care, I don't want some random-ass person who, from who the hell knows, take over. I'll take the trained officers who I know have first aid training versus some stranger off the street whose only credentials at this point are literally, trust me, bro.
So now that we've broken down this scenario, the next portion of the video shows the detainment. After Miss Good waves on a vehicle, ICE agents in an unmarked car activate their lights and exit their vehicle and tell Miss Good to step out. They further their actions by going up to Miss Good's vehicle, trying to open the door and remove her from her vehicle. Now, some people say that ICE cannot conduct traffic stops, which may be correct or maybe playing in the gray a little bit, but ICE agents do have the authority to stop vehicles and effect an arrest or detain somebody if an individual is obstructing an investigation, which, if we backtrack it to the beginning, was the intent of Miss Good being at the ICE agent's location during their investigation.
This right here is the part where I am less sure on. From everything I have seen, ICE does not have the legal authority to conduct stops due to traffic infractions, but can effect arrests due to obstruction. The difficulty is that a lot of people are claiming, yes, she does normally obstruct ICE, she follows them around and does things to make their jobs harder, but people claim she actually was not doing that at the time this all occurred, that she was there just entirely coincidentally and had no intention of obstructing them there in that moment. If there is undeniable truth that she was there to obstruct them, then I think this entire situation can be justified. Again, sloppy, but legally justifiable. But if they don't have clear 100% proof she was there to obstruct, it gets really dicey, and I don't know how it all shakes out because, again, I'm no legal scholar, but it does seem to make their position a lot worse. You could still claim self-defense, but it looks real bad for ICE to be overstepping their legal authority, which then led to the killing of someone, especially when that someone is known to dislike them and harass them. They're officers. They're held above normal everyday citizens with their power and are expected to take some level of harassment without resorting to shooting people.
Now, I use the word detained instead of arrest intentionally. Specifically in New York, where I'm from, detain means that the individual that's stopped feels as though they're not free to leave. And that can be done in several different ways, which I touched on, and I'll repeat for you again. A law enforcement officer activates the lights in an unmarked car, not uncommon. Gets out of the vehicle, dressed as a uniformed officer. In fact, Miss Good understands that she's there to intentionally prevent ICE agents from conducting an investigation. So she understands contact with an ICE agent, very possible. That ICE agent then gives verbal commands to get out of the vehicle. Now, I know some comments might say, well, it didn't say ICE, it didn't say police, you can't really make it out at that time. Once again, Miss Good is there to intentionally disrupt the investigation of ICE agents. Although it is an unmarked vehicle, it activates its lights, and a uniformed officer steps out of the vehicle giving verbal commands. A reasonable person would understand that they, at that time, are detained and not free to leave. And that detention is highlighted even more after the officer gives and continues to give commands to get out of the vehicle while attempting to open the door and remove Miss Good from the vehicle.
The biggest issues I have for this in particular is always going to be, was this a legal stop backed with authority of the law, or was this an illegal stop? Obviously, I don't recommend fleeing from cops regardless of the legality of the stop, because that will just always end up poorly for you. But I also understand the desire to tell the cops where they can shove it if you believe you're being illegally detained. I don't believe in compliance, fully complying with officers who are illegally stopping or detaining you. I believe in compliance to the absolute minimum to avoid getting arrested or escalating a situation like this. Basically, what I mean is to comply in a way that you're legally untouchable. They ask for an ID, you tell them, I don't believe I'm required to give one, but here it is, give them your ID. Always record and state what you're doing and why you're doing it. I am absolutely not a big pro-cop person. I believe they overreach a lot. There are a lot of bad cops out there, but don't give those bad cops a reason. Don't put yourself in a situation where they can do things and get away with it, especially when you're in a situation like this. What is the worst that happens to you here? You spend a single night in jail? I mean, better than getting a lot more jail time and fines, and definitely better than getting shot and killed. Do not run from the cops in situations like this. It's just a bad idea. Like I said, just comply to the minimum. If they're going to arrest you, let them arrest you. If they want your ID, give them your ID under duress. Always record and make sure you basically notate what you're doing and why you're doing it. Don't try and have a legal battle with the cops out on the road. It doesn't work that way. Pick your battles. I will never, ever be that just comply person. I hate that mentality, but I do believe in compliance to avoid further escalation. Again, pick your battles. Now, as to whether this was a legal stop that they had the authority to make, again, I'm not sure. I'd love to hear some actual legal experts weigh in on the situation, and I'm sure it will be a topic that's discussed in greater detail if this ever goes through the court systems, but I personally can't make that call, and I'm not going to act like I could. In my opinion, it's either they can prove she was obstructing intentionally, or they can't. Either they had the authority or they didn't.
Now, without trying to sound a little too sarcastic, as I am trying to be straightforward with this, could you imagine what may or may not have happened had she complied with the ICE officer with lights on his vehicle, in uniform, giving a direct command to get out of your vehicle, and then attempting to open and remove her from the vehicle?
Again, I hate the just comply mentality, but he is right here. There is no way anything but complying helps you in this situation. You fight back, it gets worse. You flee, it gets worse. Just get out and take your L like a grown-up, and take the consequences of your actions. Whether you see any of this as justified or not, understand this. Pick the right battles. Pick the right things to do. If you want to protest in these ways, then at the bare minimum, don't make things worse for yourself. Don't put yourself in harm's way in needless actions like this. Like I said earlier, the worst case scenario is you end up in jail for a little while. These things like this are not that big of crimes. It's not like you're going away for the next 10 years. It's not worth running from. And in the end, if you just take the consequences, you're at least alive and able to continue your life. Protesters are occasionally going to get arrested or things happen to them. If you aren't willing to take that risk and spend a night in jail, maybe you're not as passionate about this issue that you're protesting as you think you are. Be smart with what you're doing. And I genuinely cannot stress how serious, and I'm saying this with all the love in my heart for everybody out there, be smart and pick the right battles. Because this is a situation in which a mother is now forever gone from her children because of bad choices made. Whether you think this is a justifiable shoot or not, this woman's kids will never see her again, not because of the evil Nazi ICE agents, but because she decided to floor it in her car instead of taking the consequences of her actions like an adult.
Now, at this point in the incident, this is where the controversy begins. This is where attorneys, politicians, late night TV shows, and other members of the public really focus on. At this moment of the interaction, Miss Good puts her vehicle in reverse and backs up a short distance, and then puts her vehicle in drive as an ICE officer goes in front of her vehicle, making his way around to the driver's side. And she drives forward where the officer shoots through the vehicle. His bullets strike Miss Good, which continues her acceleration into a parked vehicle and then into a pole where the vehicle stops. And I'll break this down further into 3 smaller incidents: driving, striking, and the shooting. Let's start with driving. Having already been given instructions by a uniformed officer, Miss Good puts the vehicle in reverse as the officer is attempting to open up her door. It is at this moment that the officer who shoots has already pulled out his firearm. Now, people are disputing, well, she was driving backwards at that time and not a threat. Why did he pull out his firearm? Which, to somebody who's experienced some of these moments in his career, finds mind-boggling. Officers can draw their weapons if a potential use of force incident is present. Potential. An officer doesn't have to wait for a firearm to be pulled out and then pointed at him to then draw their service weapon. An officer, and this is usually in their manual of procedures, can draw his weapon when he feels threatened or that there is a potential for violence, to include deadly force. An example, if I do a traffic stop and I see somebody rooting around in the center console aggressively digging at something, I could infer that they could be reaching for a weapon, and I could draw my firearm out. I could then give verbal instructions to show me your hands, and that person could obviously pull out a firearm and shoot at me, or could have just been digging in their center console aggressively because they're panicking and have no weapon on them. Now, in that incident, I would reholster and then engage that person verbally, but in no way, shape, or form is me pulling out or removing my firearm because there is a potential threat any violation of a manual of procedures.
This part is another real dumb thing I see, and I don't understand it. It's like people don't have a firm grasp of reality around them. It's crazy to me that people genuinely believe a cop has to basically be actively being killed for them to finally be able to even draw their firearm. I agree, cops may rely too heavily on their guns in a lot of instances, but in this particular one, put yourself in the shoes of the ICE agent who fired the shots. This man is standing in front of a car, recording for some reason, I'm not really sure why, and then she starts to just back up. Okay, weird, probably a little bit confused in the moment. Then suddenly she decides to just floor it forward, and guess what is right in front of her now moving vehicle? Ding, 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 you guessed it. Was he supposed to wait until he was under the car to pull his gun? I mean, you have a 4,000 plus pound vehicle coming towards you and not enough time to jump out of the way or do anything else. Like, what is your best course of action? I just don't understand these weirdos commenting things on social media saying, obviously he should have dodged the car, as they cover their keyboards in another layer of fucking Dorito dust and Mountain Dew spillage. Brother, just because you personally weigh close enough to the car that you'd be able to stop its acceleration doesn't mean everyone else can. Some of us actually have to take other directions in order to stop the very painfully obvious threat to our lives.
Or an excessive use of force. Now, we've already used the word intent. From an officer's perspective, after giving verbal warnings to an individual to get out of the vehicle while wearing their uniform and having their overhead lights, that person decides to move their vehicle, as in shift, to reverse, and move. And this is while an officer is attempting to open the door and attached physically to the vehicle. It is reasonable to assume that that person is now going to try and drive away, possibly into officers in an attempt to flee. They have already shown that they will disregard the verbal orders and the physical action of the officer trying to open up the door and drive away. And now we get into a micro point that people are really dialed into, and that is where the front tire is turned to. Individuals are stating that because the wheel was turned a certain way, that adds additional intent or shows the thought process of Miss Good as she backs up and drives forward. Some people state that because her front wheels are straight and pointing towards the ICE officer in front of her vehicle as she accelerates, but the wheels don't get traction, it shows that she was willing to strike the individual officer in front of her vehicle. Others are saying that because she turned the wheel shortly thereafter, that is an attempt in order to avoid the officers, and therefore has no liability and is zero threat to the officer that's in front of her vehicle making his way around to the driver's side.
The whole which way the tires pointing argument makes no damn sense, and let me tell you why. From the ICE agent who shot's point of view, he cannot see where the tires are pointed. He is in front of the vehicle, basically riding the hood when he fires his first shot. There is no seeing where the tires are pointed. You can argue all you want to whether this gives intention to the woman's actions, sure. Maybe there is some validity to that, but the reality is we will absolutely never know for a fact what her intentions were because she was the only one who knew her intentions in the moment. And nothing will ever come out to prove her intentions one way or the other. It's just not possible to determine in that exact moment. But in the position of the officer who fired the shots, it doesn't matter in the slightest. This is info you are gaining after the fact. Understand that. After. The officer doesn't have to justify his use of force despite her tires being pointed in another direction that he can't see. He has to justify his actions from his perspective. And guess what? From his perspective, he is actively being run into by a 4,000-pound goddamn car.
And now we move on to struck, or not struck. From the different angles and the different times being put together, in my opinion, it looks like the officer is struck. Or, potentially, he puts his hand on the hood, jumps back, and that acceleration pushes him backwards around the corner of the vehicle as he fires at Miss Good. Now, does the striking matter? Yes, it does, but it's not as important as people think. Whether he's struck or not struck, it is the officer's interpretation of whether he is being assaulted with a deadly weapon. If he believes that she is driving at him and that vehicle will strike him, he is allowed to use deadly force. Let me break that down because I know you're getting upset. What do you mean if he believes it? From a victim's standpoint, if I go up to an old person with a squirt gun, but it doesn't have any orange tip and it looks like a firearm, and I point it at them and I say, hey, give me your money, and then they pull out their .44 Magnum and proceed to put every bullet through my sternum, I am at fault. Why?
Because it is just like I have been saying. It is the officer's perception that is more important here. Not the intention. Believe it or not, people, law enforcement officers are not fucking mind readers. And 90% of the time, law enforcement officers are not working with all the possible facts available. Best example is right here in this case, in the position of the tires from earlier. The cop currently riding the damn hood has absolutely no fucking clue where the tires are currently pointing. He doesn't know if she is just trying to run away or run him the hell over. He's taking guesses and making assumptions based on the facts he does have. That's an important distinction for this case. He is operating under the facts he has, such as the 4,000-pound vehicle currently pressing into his body. The fact that this lady already hates ICE and is well known to harass them. The fact that she isn't complying with orders already. All of these compound into one single second reaction for him to draw his weapon and fire. It doesn't matter if he was seriously struck or if it was a superficial hit that did no real damage. In that moment, she is currently driving a car into him. And those are the only facts that matter in this instance.
Because the victim, the individual, reasonably believed that I had pulled out a firearm with the intent to rob them, which is a deadly force authorized situation. If I pull out a knife and start screaming at you, you feel that I may stab you with that knife. My intent may be to put it away. It could be a rubber knife. but you as the victim feel, and reasonably so, that I am threatening you with a knife and that I will stab you, or I have the potential to stab you. That is also a deadly force authorized incident. So, an ICE agent crossing over the front of the vehicle, having seen the vehicle back up while an officer is trying to open the door, post verbal warnings and the lights being on and detainment, reasonably believes that that person, after backing up, could potentially run his partner that's on the vehicle or him over, draws his firearm. The vehicle then lunges forward and accelerates, to which he believes he is about to be struck by a vehicle and fires. And if you don't think that a vehicle is a deadly weapon, I would strongly disagree. Just look at the amount of times that vehicles have been used in order to intentionally assault large groups of people during terrorist attacks, or even domestics where somebody gets upset at another person, decides to run them over with a car. A car is a 2-ton bullet that you can turn.
Okay, if anyone ever makes the argument to you that a car isn't a possible lethal weapon, in this case, then you need to just instantly remove yourself from them and probably remove them from your life. They are the definition of ideologically brainwashed and do not care about facts, logic, or anything else that could potentially ruin their argument for their team. Their team is all they give a shit about, and honestly, the world has enough of those people. We could do with a lot less people thinking in this way and more people being open-minded and forming their own opinions. So if you get hit with this argument, just remove yourself. Block them on social media. Just get rid of them from your life. Don't associate with them anymore. It's not worth it. Don't bother trying to argue with them. It's probably the greatest red flag of this case to say, hey, I only care about my side winning, that there is. There are countless examples of people being hit by cars intentionally and them being used as weapons. I mean, look at the one person who ran over protesters in Charlottesville. Was a car not being used as a weapon that time? I don't get it. It's a really stupid argument, and just don't engage with it. It's not worth it.
And it just so happens that the officer who fired those rounds into Miss Good's car was drugged by a vehicle 300 yards while attempting to effect an arrest just 6 months ago. So even if this officer was on the stand, he could state, I have been drugged by a vehicle just 6 months ago because somebody did not want to be arrested. And here he has another scenario, an individual ignoring directions and verbal commands from a uniformed ICE agent, a federal officer, who is then trying to make entry into her vehicle to effect detainment, possibly an arrest, to which she ignores, reverses the vehicle with the officer attempting to open it, attached to her vehicle, and then accelerates in the direction of the officer that's holding the firearm.
So I actually disagree with this. If he's making the statement that he can back up the idea of a car being used as a weapon with the previous case of him being dragged by a car 6 months ago, then sure, I'm okay with that. But if he is making the argument that this more justifies the shoot because this officer just had this happen to him 6 months ago, then I completely disagree. As an officer, you should be aware of these things and use past experiences to teach you how to react, but it feels almost like he is saying, see, this cop got dragged earlier, so now he's scared of cars, so he shot. And I feel like that is a terrible way to look at it. I could be entirely wrong on how he is presenting it here, but as a cop, you can't let the possibility of danger or the reaction to dangers from the past affect your judgment in current situations, in my opinion. As hard as that may be, I don't think it adds any further justification to the situation other than to prove, yes, cars can be used as weapons, and I don't think that argument needs to be justified because common fucking sense will tell you cars can be used as weapons. So that's why I kind of lean more towards him making this statement as if to further justify the shoot itself and not the fact that cars are weapons. And with that, I kind of just disagree.
Now, in my personal opinion, it looks as though his left hip bounces off the front headlight of the vehicle as he puts his hand down on the hood and attempts to jump out of the way of the vehicle. If you disagree with me and say no, you have to be directly in front of the vehicle or it has to hit you in order for you to use deadly force, I would then ask you, then where is the cutoff? Do you have to get hit by the vehicle? Does it have to launch you a certain distance? Does a certain amount of it have to make contact with you? And what amount? Do you just have to be near it? How near? Because if you're putting your hand on top of a hood and having to do some Michael Jackson weird hit move to avoid being struck, you avoid being struck by the vehicle, not the vehicle avoiding you, from the point of a victim, I would say that that vehicle is a legitimate threat to your personal safety, including a threat to your life. I would also reference all the accident videos you see where people just get clipped a little bit and fly in the air or are drug underneath a vehicle. It's a vehicle in it. It's made of metal, right? I'm a dude just made out of flesh and bones, right?
So I included this part despite not disagreeing with anything here, but to give context just in case you don't watch all of the rest of his video, which personally I highly recommend because he makes good content, but I think maybe he was trying to make the argument that the vehicle is and can be used as a weapon, which again I just don't see a need to do. Maybe he feels differently than I, but if someone tries to make the argument to me that vehicles aren't weapons and can't be used in a way that opens themselves up to deadly force being used in self-defense against, then I'm just not going to engage with that person because, as stated earlier, they're either idiots or they're ideologically brainwashed, and I have no use for that person or their moronic opinions at that point. I can't be bothered to try and unbrainwash someone that far gone. But maybe he still wants to try, and maybe he's trying to explain it to those people, and I just personally feel it to be pointless.
Now we move on to the shooting. Get ready for this. Let's start at the beginning. Why was Miss Good there? Well, from video that was on scene prior to the shooting taking place, and also an interview with one of the other protesters that were a part of Miss Good's overall group, we know that Miss Good was there to intentionally protest against the presence of ICE agents. And during the interview with the co-protester of Miss Good, the co-protester stated this.
They clearly wanted her out of there because she was the main car leading the protest, is my understanding. I talked to another guy who was driving behind her, but she was very successful in blocking traffic. She was doing what she was set out to do, and so they wanted to get her the hell out of there. Yeah.
So it looked like she was impeding ICE vehicles.
Definitely, yeah,
Okay.
that was her goal.
Miss Good was there as a part of a larger group to protest the presence of ICE. Her job and intent was to block or barricade ICE vehicles from attempting to do whatever it was they were doing, and the video of her doing just that shows that, yes, she was successful at it. I bring this up. Why? Well, because it shows the intent of the individual, Miss Good, on why she was in the area. Some stories and individuals have posted that she was a mom, caught up, confused, and trying to get out, but the video of her intentionally blocking ICE agents in her vehicle, and the video of her co-protester stating that that was what she was doing, and what she was meant to do or had planned on doing, and was very successful at it, disproves that. Well, it takes that narrative of lost white woman and puts it to bed.
So I don't really disagree with all of this personally. I think she most likely was actively obstructing and harassing ICE, and I do believe she was a person who did this on a normal basis. My main concern with it is whether or not it is a little early to be making that statement definitively. What I mean is that there are several different people making claims that were close to her, some saying she wasn't there to mess with ICE in that particular occasion, but just happened to be there. I've heard people say she was actually dropping someone off and was there entirely coincidentally, and even saw a video from a nearby camera, I believe a security camera somewhere, that showed her parked on the side of the street beforehand and basically got caught up in the trying to leave, and these ICE agents just kind of rolled up. Point is that I think it's too early to make that claim that she was attempting to obstruct and hinder ICE operations in this exact moment right now. Maybe he knows something I don't, though, so keep that in mind. Just from everything I have seen, there's a lot of contradicting stories out there that make claiming the statement as 100% factual a bit early for me in this moment. What we do know is that she was commonly practicing this whole following Ice and blocking them and being an annoyance in the past, leading up to this incident. That doesn't justify the shoot or the stop, but in this moment, I'd be more confident on leaning towards the side that she was there to block Ice and wasn't just randomly caught up in the whole wrong place, wrong time. I just wouldn't say it's 100% a known fact yet. However, this whole narrative that she was just some random lost mother with no knowledge of what the hell was going on and got shot for it is absolute total bullshit. And again, is something, if presented with, you should disengage with that person if they refuse to admit she wasn't an active anti-ICE protester. There are way too many people in that circle all claiming that this is what she did for it to not be true, or at least believed to be the truth as of right now. The rest of this video from Angry Cops is basically talking about the fact that we don't know her intent, and then reading the dispatch logs in which we're shown how just truly awful people are. Protesters end up grouping up and eventually start cutting crime scene tape in the area. Cars get confused because the area isn't taped off right, because people are cutting it. And it just all becomes kind of a clusterfuck among people apparently saying Bloods and Crips are going to meet up and do something, who knows what. Just all hell breaks loose after this shoot. I highly recommend against doing dumb things like this if you want justice for a situation you think is unlawful. The best thing to do is not disrupt the crime scene. Don't force cops to work quickly because they're afraid of the gathering crowd and they can't work as efficiently and well as possible. They could be missing evidence or key elements to an investigation because of what you're doing. You're doing much more harm than you are good. Don't do this. And speaking of people you shouldn't be like, we have even more to go over with this. So let's get into it.
I want to show you something. We can go frame by frame on this one. Keep an eye on this guy, the cold-blooded murderer, who's no doubt going to claim that he was afraid that his life was in danger, or whatever.
Oh boy, I bet you can't possibly tell what side of the aisle she lands on, can you? Right off the bat, the officer is called a cold-blooded murderer. I also love that she says, quote-unquote, claim his life was in danger or whatever, in such a nasty and condescending tone, in a way that just screams, yeah, like as if a 4,000-pound vehicle could be, like, even used to, like, harm someone or whatever. I mean, I don't even know this woman and I already hate her.
For someone who's gonna no doubt claim that, he sure doesn't seem to be in any hurry to move out of the way. See, here you can see that instead of moving out of the way, he actually decides to draw his weapon and actually plant himself more firmly. In fact, he's leaning over the hood of the car right now.
Remember earlier when I said that there are people who are just ideologically brainwashed, that this narrative has to be right? They just need to score points for their team? Example fucking A. Are you just dumb? Is that it? I really wish it was that simple and you just... I wish you were just an idiot and you didn't just hate America and just want everybody to be in some bullshit communist utopia that you think exists. God. If he's planted in position, then what are those steps that he's taking to the side? He's actively moving. He didn't plant his feet when he drew his weapon. He planted his feet for a second when drawing his weapon, because that's how you draw a weapon. You don't try and run while drawing a weapon. You're then hindering the amount of time it takes you to draw said weapon. So yes, you plant, draw, and then move. That's just... oh my god, that's just how that works. I can tell you've never even touched a firearm before, but whatever.
On purpose. If you go frame by frame, you can see his feet are actually beside the vehicle at this point. And there is the first time he pulls the trigger, when again, both of his feet show that he has fully cleared the front of that vehicle.
So wait, did he plant his feet and not move to intentionally be in front of the vehicle so he could shoot, or did he move and now he's on the side of the vehicle? It can't be both, okay? The vehicle's turn radius isn't so great that he can be in front of the vehicle within 2 feet and then the vehicle clear him at the same time. Like, both cannot be fucking true. You are delusional.
And then the next 2 shots happen here and then here. Both of which where he's very clearly having to aim through the driver's side window and actually appears to be running after the vehicle to catch up to it.
Oh my God. Now, he not only didn't plant his feet like you said earlier, he not only walked like you said earlier, now he's running. Holy shit. I get it. Your idea of physical exercise is walking from your kitchen and back to your couch, but let me tell you a secret. 2 steps is not running. In the time it took him to fire the last 2 shots from start to finish, he took 2 steps in total. That is not running. Also, remember earlier on in the video where I said a lot of people are showing this video from their comfortable rooms, not in the situation, but with a slowed down, frame by frame, third person view of the video of the situation? Example A. It is just so painful.
This, by the way, after very clearly signaling to the ICE officers to pass by her on that street, which she was very clearly not blocking nor obstructing, because moments earlier when she first started to pull out, another vehicle started pulling out similarly and crossed in front of her. So she was telling the next one to go on ahead. Not posing a threat, not obstructing nor impeding anything. Would you look at that?
Oh, well, would you just look at that?
Oh, would you look at this?
Yeah, well...
Would you look at that?
Yeah, there's a few more blemishes on the car.
Oh my gosh, just look at
The
it.
car is not perfect.
Just look at it. Just look at it.
Yeah, well...
What the heck is that?
We have no idea who or why she was waving people on. It could very well be that she wasn't obstructing ICE in that very moment, but she has in the past. In fact, she was a very well-known person to stop and harass and obstruct ICE in the past. So, in spite of us not having all of the facts at the very moment, we can at least reasonably assume that she was most likely there to do exactly what she had spent a lot of time in the past doing, impeding and obstructing ICE operations. To say from this little clip of a video that she was totally not obstructing them because she waved a car through it's just moronic. Just, you have no idea what you're talking about. You made an instant video to an incident with only the evidence of a small video itself, not giving context, not having the full picture, and you just rushed to make a video that aligns with your team's narrative. Congrats, you are part of the problem. Good job. Unfortunately, it doesn't end there. I have a collection of different really idiotic tweets here as well. For example, this one. The fact that the driver put it in reverse to increase distance between herself and the agent positioned in front of the car. That action is inconsistent with an intent to strike or run over the agent. I don't know how. I mean, you could easily just justify it as they wanted to get a better distant start to hit the person. I mean, it's so idiotic. You could literally just look up videos of people doing exactly that with intention to hit and kill somebody with a car. They throw it in reverse and run them over again. Like, it's dumb. If the objective were to cause harm, reversing would have been unnecessary and counterproductive. How? Again, increase the distance means you hit them with greater speed. It's just stupid. Second, the driver turned the steering wheel to the right, away from the agent. Again, like we've already discussed, the agent's perception of what's happening is what matters in terms of the use of lethal force in self-defense. What he can see is the person coming at him, and then the wheels turning in the third-person video from the side that he can't see. He has no knowledge of where the tires are. There's even a video of his point of view. He's literally just like riding the hood, basically. So he has no idea where the tires are pointed. At that point, the agent moved to the left side of the vehicle and was no longer in the vehicle's path. The threat had dissipated. Again, No real way of knowing that. I pointed out before how, yes, on the second and third shot, he is alongside the car, and you could try and argue that that means the threat's gone and over with now. But the reality is that he has no idea where any of his other guys are. He has no idea whether this person who just tried to hit him, in his view, is just driving up to then throw it in reverse again and try and hit people even more. And whether it be him or another ICE agent, it doesn't really matter. But it could logically be argued that she was then just creating more distance to do it again. The agent then leaned over the hood, aimed, and fired. So, wait, was he to the left, or was he on the hood? It doesn't really make any sense, but okay. The use of deadly force was not reactive to an imminent threat. It was a discretionary act taken after the threat had ceased. Again, he either shot from on top of the hood or to the side in your story, which he actually did both. But it's idiotic. The threat didn't cease. You don't know that. You don't know that for a fact. And again, his perception is the person tried to hit him. He fired a shot as he was on top of the vehicle, basically, and then was kind of pushed off to the left side and fired 2 more shots in rapid succession. Again, the whole slowed down videos don't do it justice. It was less than 2 seconds. Less than 2 seconds, all 3 shots were fired. This was not an unjustified not a justified shooting. It was an unlawful killing. In what world? I don't get it. Even tagged at IceGov. Like, this is just an idiotic tweet. You have no idea whether it was actually a justified shooting or not. You're making assumptions, and you probably have absolutely no real background in any type of legal matters. And you know what's great? Right after I made that statement, I decided to investigate the Twitter a little more. Looked it up, and they have changed changed their profile picture to this cringy shit. And yeah, not an FBI agent. I'm a financial crimes investigator and current law student. I don't monetize my content. I fight MAGA ideology and lies. Yeah, we can tell where your home base is at. And here's another. Just look at the wheels, guys. The wheels are fully turned away from the officer. Watch it in slow-mo. No intention, in my opinion, to hit anyone. Not a threat. Look at the wheel. Like, this is some of the most conspiratorial stupidity. Like, you people have actual video footage in front of you and are choosing to basically fight reality. Fight what you see from your own eyes in order to prop up your team. It's just insanely disgusting. Alright, guys. I think that about covers everything I wanted to cover. There's a lot more to this, and a lot more disgusting people posting things on social media and YouTube and everything else, but we'll just leave it there for now. Man, this whole situation is a mess. If I were to leave this off with anything, I'd like to reiterate the fact that if you're going to do things like protest, do it intelligently. Don't put yourself in bad situations like this. Even if you are in the right, don't try and run away from cops. Don't try and fight cops. Don't do things that makes the situation escalate, regardless of whether you're in the right or not. It leads to bad things happening to you. Just comply with them to the extent of you de-escalating the situation and go from there. Spend the night in jail if you have to, but don't do something that makes it so that cops can take your life. Again, this is a mother who, even though I think her ideas and what she was doing is wrong, I wouldn't want to see her not be able to come home to her kids anymore because of something stupid like this. Don't run from the cops. It's just a bad idea. It will end poorly for you. But that sums it all up. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one. I plan on doing some more YouTube videos here in the future. Sorry it took me so long to come back.